what do you think about that send off against Crystal Palace?
That was okay. So there's Liverpool fans that are like, oh, he didn't headbutt him. Oh, he was being, he was being egged on to do it. And it's just like, yeah, of course he's being egged on to do it. If they have this feeling that you're a hothead that can lose control of your emotions, any top athlete slash
Easy,
competitor is going
easy.
to try to get an advantage over you.
On that
That doesn't make
whiteboard,
sense.
big letters, whiteboard. Oh, we could risk a couple yellows if it means they're gonna go down one. Oh yeah.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And so like it's super frustrating because I there's definitely a lot of Liverpool fans that the signing of Nuñez weren't exactly thrilled about the signing. I was kind of in between where
You
I
were
wasn't
pumped.
in love with
You would have
it.
been pumped if it would have been like 40 million.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot. It wasn't really so much like the money that put me back because like, oh, I'm glad that we're actually spending it, but it's more of like he had one really great season in the Champions League and his domestic league, and there wasn't really a whole body of work to kind of be able to be like, oh yeah, this dude's really going to be a stud. But I kind of took those Champions League games as like, oh, he can definitely perform in the big moments, and he's a quality player. But then like in watching some of like the preseason games, which again, like you can only take with a grain of salt because it's preseason,
Yeah.
there was definitely some things that made me a little bit timid. His athleticism, like his overall
His
balance, his first
technical
touch.
skills.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing that I still bank on is the fact that he puts himself in great attacking positions. And so at some point, you hope that those goals are going to start to come in. Otherwise, we have a potential Timo Werner situation in our hands, and that's just not something that Liverpool can deal with right now, especially after the departure of Mane
You know what
this
he? You know
offseason.
who he's kind of reminded me of, and that this is actually a compliment. I'm not trying to say it's a slight. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Chicharito in the
I
sense
I
that
I Go ahead.
he knows how to get in front of the goal, and like the ball just seems to be attracted to him in good positions. And you're like, how does this happen? How does he end up with 2, 3 chances? I do think he's gonna be better than Chicharito. No disrespect against Chicharito. He played for United and he had a good career and he scored a lot of goals, super sub and all
Yeah,
that stuff. But I kind of see a little Chicharito in him.
I see it. I get what you're coming from 100%. I also just to kind of go back to it, I think my belief in him to become a great player was rooted in my strong faith in Klopp, right? Like I
Yeah,
truly believe that under him we wouldn't make a stupid signing. I think there's only been like a couple where it's just like a head scratcher, and them being like Kabak as a center back when we had that center back injury crisis, and the same with like Ben Davies, who we got from the championship. And Ben Davies never played a minute, and then Kabak was awful, and he's kind of I think he's back in the Bundesliga now. But I think it was just kind of due to the crisis that was going on. There were just stopgaps. But I think he's made the point like, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. So I have
yeah.
faith in him signing players that he feels are going to be effective under his system. And I do believe that Nuñez will become effective. It's just a matter of him mentally believing it as well. Because he's young, he's 22, 23 years old, and
Yeah.
having the couple games where he's had, I mean, he scored on his debut, and it wasn't like the prettiest goal, and it wasn't the prettiest assist that he gave, but like it's obviously there's potential there for a really effective season, and that which that he can contribute really heavily. He's gotta learn, right? Like it sucks for him to have learned on his home debut, but I have faith that the rest of the group is going to kind of make sure that he's steered in the right direction, and he continues just to improve in his mental capability to kind of just stay locked in and avoid the BS, and become a great striker. I just think I unfortunately think what's happened is like Klopp doesn't like to put in our signings right away. It's that's kind of been evident with
Yeah.
all of the new signings that have come in his tenure. But the two strikers that do play in front of him or would be playing in front of him during this like transition period are both out injured. And so like unfortunately for him, he kind of just got thrown into the fire, right? To just kind of go out there and perform. But normally Klopp's transfers get a month, 2 months to kind of get slowly integrated to the team. And he was kind of just pushed in right away. So, I mean, he's got 3 games now where he's just going to be involved in training and sitting on the bench.
So
But we'll see, man. We'll
what are your
see how it
thoughts
goes. I
on
have faith.
what are your thoughts? There's because I saw on the NBC broadcast after the post game and then on Twitter a little bit that Liverpool even played a little bit better once Nuñez got sent off because right now they're so focused on feeding him and adapting their game style to what suits Nuñez the best, and that's not necessarily what Liverpool does best. They kind of like to, tuck in their wingers and attack the flanks, get their fullbacks up there, and now they're kind of sending a lot of long balls to find Nuñez. What do you think about that? Do you
It's
kind of
no,
see that?
it's I know, I definitely see that because it's a completely different striker, like a mold of striker. We with Jota and with Firmino, they're false nines and they drop into the midfield to support and receive and deliver passes. With Nuñez, you have a 6'2", 6'3" striker
Physical.
who's really gonna physical. He's more of a center forward than he's a false nine, and so it's a completely different way that we've played. And I think we were overcompensating for the fact that like, hey, we have to feed him. I think they felt so like urge to really get him going on his home debut that ultimately it was our downfall. We did play better when he came off. I just think, again, this kind of going back to my earlier point, I think when we have other players, other strikers that are already familiar with the current system, and then we bring in Nuñez to the fold, and like the second half or as a super sub, just to kind of get him started in these first couple months in the Premier
That
League.
Chicharito role.
Exactly. It's a different element of Liverpool, and teams don't exactly know how to guard it. But when they see it from the get go, and they're like, "All right, this is what we're going to kind of deal with."
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. So we'll see as the season goes along. Again, I have faith that he will become a good striker in the system. Not so much like in that false nine. I think he'll create his own niche. But I do think we have a player on our hands. It's just a matter of him to kind of continue to work at, getting himself comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because
Yeah,
that's
he
just
can't
what
be a
it's going to be
hothead.
like.
He can't be a hothead.
Exactly. People are going to bump him, and it's kind of worse now. He's basically put a huge target on his back. She's like, hey, like, come
Yeah,
rough me
you
up.
can get. I could get like wow the it's
Yeah,
gonna work.
exactly. So we'll see now. That
I
it
always
was
think
a
about it
disappointing.
like in friend groups when you get clowned on, because if you're in a friend group that likes to clown, it's gonna come to you at some point. And
Everybody gets it.
if you react like super like damn like that got to me, then it's gonna be like, oh, this is our target now. And that's
Yeah,
kind of like that's how the Premier League is gonna look at it. Like, oh, let me see. Oh, Kane doesn't really react. Like I'm wasting my time. Like let me
yep,
focus on the game. Oh, Nuñez
yeah,
pushing him a little bit. Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah. I know exactly. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, Klopp loves to call Liverpool mentality monsters, right? And so if mentally you're the weakest link, I mean, and you're only as strong as your weakest link, that is definitely going to be a problem for us. So again, I hope he clears that whole thing up, and this is all in the past.